All right, party people, we have the WattBike and the Assault Bike here. A lot of people also use the Airdyne. I'm not going to use the Airdyne because there's just a bunch of more faults and things that are added to it, but let's start with setup with these things because it's important because a lot of people are using these right now because there's some issues here where there's not as many issues here. Although these are fixed machines, which is an issue itself, the fact is one is more, it helps develop efficiency a little bit better than the other. That said, let's talk about setup. Setup on these bikes is really simple, okay? Take your hip, it's simple. The top of your hip and roughly about an inch below that to the top of your hip is gonna be where that seat should be. Any lower than that, you're probably bottoming out, using way too much of your quads, not getting your hips into it and your hamstrings, so you're not using a lot of that elastic tension that happens, and that's important, especially for this bike, okay? Because everything on this bike, and I'll get into this in a second, should be above a 90 RPM, okay? Secondly, you can do the same thing on this bike. The problem with this bike is that we have handles, and so these handles, if I'm somebody like an Emily Bridgers, I'm way down low, all right? And so I'm really stuck in this position with these handles to work from, which really sucks for my shoulders because I get caught in internal rotation, my rotation gets all screwed up, etc. So for me, I set this thing on a 7, which is just below my hip, which the reason we're setting that up like that is because I am most optimal, okay, at 90 degrees or 3 o'clock on a clock up front because my body weight is here, okay? So the second part of this is the backs of these machines have legs and the front of these machines have legs. Raise the rear legs up all the way. Lower the front of the legs all the way down. Gravity still works, okay? And the reason you will see cyclists or even BMX riders riding and throwing the bike side to side is because they're getting their body weight over that foot at 3 o'clock so that they can get connected to generate more power. You generate more power at 3 o'clock than anywhere else in the pedal stroke. That's where the most important piece of this is. There's a lot of minutia in that. Don't worry past that, really, for anybody who's just hanging out in the gym or trying to get fit in the gym and do that stuff. There's even bike fits and things that should be happening, and you can go check out things like the Art of Tri or wherever, find your local cycling shop to get your bike fit. But make sure that your bike fit is happening with you in an optimal position. And that optimal position is that back, that spine, that being integrated through the hip, not being kyphotic and trying to fit into somewhere. You're trying to get long. It's just like a deadlift, okay? So it's setting up that position, but with that angle down, you're actually allowing yourself to get forward to generate more power, okay? Now, speed equals skill. Power does not always fall into that equation, okay? Here's where we run into some more problems with the Assault Bike. It's not that this bike's a problem. This bike is actually genius because we can put anybody on this thing and get physiological responses, and meaning get them fitter, okay? So, and I'm not trying to harp on this, I'm saying we need to, this is an incredible machine for developing power, but what it's not an incredible machine for is developing skill, okay? This comes at a much higher cost with this machine, okay? And I'm gonna get into that, but the 90 RPM, okay, does not mean you need to develop power. I can hold a 90, 95, 100 RPMs on this, or cadence, okay? And I can be putting out less than 200 watts, okay, with a body weight of about 190, okay? That is just me doing a high turnover and developing the skill to be quick and efficient with my pedal stroke. It doesn't mean I need to work really, really hard, but it may stimulate my nervous system so much because I lack that skill that it feels hard, okay? So, using this machine becomes important if you're using something like this a lot, because everything that you'll notice on here is below a 90 RPM pretty much. There's a few guys, and I can get it up above 90 RPM for, I could probably hold about 90 RPM for 30 seconds or so, or maybe a little more fresh. That said, the typical RPM on this thing is well below that, which means you're grinding, okay? So you are actually in a compensatory reaction. You're not getting the most utilization out of the elastic response that you want on something like this, or even running. So thinking hop bouncing, okay, a 90 RPM is like the minimum you can use to be really, really efficient. So you can't be really efficient on this machine, so you're grinding. So one of the big things we see is this over rotation, or I'm swinging side to side because I've lost stability, because I'm grinding, or I'm literally just doing a lot more muscle contraction here and not getting efficient. So if I'm grinding out a bunch of stuff on these things, it would behoove us to move over to something like this to cool down, to warm up, or the next day to get and spin on it. And you can drop the camber all the way down to 1 and spin out at about 90 to 100 RPM for 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And you're gonna not only help with your recovery, but you're gonna help develop that skill pattern, or that efficient pattern, which will inevitably translate over to this once you can get the revolutions going quick enough and you get up on top of that. So, hope that helps, and see you soon.